you ever let the color of your skin, where you come from, the environment you grew up in, stop you from chasing your dreams, baby, let's get it. My hand to please don't segregate. Dressed in a suit, I can't relate. Minority report, can't ignore being rich from poor and your credit score. My hand to please don't segregate. Dressed in a suit, I can't relate. Minority report, can't ignore being rich from poor and your credit score.
Damn, that was like a remix.
That shot hit him.
It's that shot, bro. All right, well, here we are, episode 8. Billy the Kid, your host with
Dan Delgado.
And it's been an exciting last couple of weeks for both of us.
Yeah.
I got a little rental going right now. I was just telling you, it's crazy, that little neighborhood where we're working right now. Literally, I have two flips for clients, one for you, and then I have another client that's working on a rental that I'm fixing up, another client that they're getting ready to put it in the market for all construction, and then that's how I found my duplex across the street.
I'm gonna call the city and be like, we need to change the subdivision name to the
Please
new
edit
era.
this to block new era section.
Yeah. That's
So
cool,
yeah,
man. Congrats, man. That's
it's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good. And actually, I have a rental. I don't know if I told you, I have a rental in that area too. So it's a good area. I like it. It's a great neighborhood for kids and stuff. But how was your week, man? How's
Good,
everything?
Man. Like, it was the first week I've had in months where I'm not working on the flip, like nights and weekends, and we'll get in more
You're
into
like,
that. But I'm like, whoa, like this is crazy. Like,
so this is what it feels like.
yeah, having a life again, Like
Yeah.
I've been able to, I love to cook, so I've been able to, make dinner a few nights and
Nice.
make breakfast and that kind of stuff and not have like panic attacks.
Yeah.
So yeah, man, it's been great. Like I'm just kind of enjoying my time at home right now. It's a little bit of a break. I got another flip that's
Coming
ready to
up,
start
yeah.
going, so I'm gonna have to get at it again. But it's
Yeah,
been
no,
nice.
and those breaks are usually really good. Like you refocus yourself and all that good stuff. So yeah, no, I definitely get what you mean. Earlier I was telling you I wanted to make a quick joke. So we went out for lunch whenever it was last week.
Oh, you and I,
Yeah. Had some
I was like,
pupusas.
yesterday, bro.
Oh yeah, it was yesterday.
Literally was yesterday.
Dude, what's today? No, and yeah, so we went out, had some lunch, pupusas, great, and the conversation was awesome. We came up with some great ideas. I think that we're gonna start putting into work. But it's funny because one of the things, and you literally came out and you're like, "Hey, bro, can you post that real quick?" And then I'm like, "Come down, you're a public figure now." I think the fame is getting into you, bro.
It's gotten easier. Like I realized the importance of actually like telling people what you're doing.
Yeah.
Not so much because I want to be famous or anything. Like,
Right,
that's
no,
not at all.
yeah.
I just think it's cool. Like I'm getting, but you too, we're getting feedback from people, both good and bad, on the podcast itself, on what we're doing. So like it's nice just having a platform where I can kind of share what I'm up to. But yeah, it's getting easier. Like it was a lot harder at first.
And I made it a joke, but yeah, no, it's good. And I know, obviously, with my music, it was kind of natural at this point in a way, but I always kind of tend to forget, so like I've told you, I'm very happy that you came out of the shell and now you're this public figure, bro.
Mogul. Yeah, right.
Took it to a whole other level now. It's like a mogul. I like it.
I'm getting there.
Dan Tan, the
Dan.
Creeper mogul. The Creeper. Remember the last episode with the closet?
Yeah, you called the Creeper, yeah.
So every episode we're gonna try to throw a nickname in there, aka mogul.
All right. Tell us about Book of the Week.
Yeah. He's like, moving on. So this week I have Unoffendable by, and I have some notes here, by Brant Hansen. Have you read that one?
I've never even heard of it.
So it's straight to the point. And like I said, I took some notes here, but really the whole book is you have no right to be offended by anybody. So think of how your life is if you start living like that, where it's like, dang, like I can't get mad at people. That's
because when you give no fucks, I mean,
right. But no, and more of like a positive, because what I always tell people too, like with relationships, like friends or family or whoever, como en español, they're like el que se enoja pierde. I don't know if you heard that before.
I've never heard that, but yeah, okay.
Like it translates to whoever gets mad loses at the end, basically, and it's so true because. And this gets deeper. I mean, not just like getting mad and he or she's not talking to me, but health wise, like
It's poison.
exactly.
Yeah.
You're poisoning yourself. So therefore, your nerves, like your inside, and it's easy not to see it that way, right? When you're mad, no, but you have no right. That's what this book comes down to. And like I said, I took some notes here. So basically, we're not entitled to get offended or stay angry. And it's this idea that we have the right, but we really don't. Like nobody has the right to be offended or mad at somebody. It's a myth. So it's actually one of the number one problems in our society today, if you think about it. And then basically choosing to be unoffendable relinquishes the right to be anger. It doesn't mean accepting injustice. It means seeking justice, loving mercy while working humbly with God. And it's a very spiritual book too. He throws some proverbs in there and stuff like that. And basically, we have no right. So like I said, you have two choices each time. You could either get mad at somebody or you won't. And at the end of the day, el que se enoja pierde. Like, it's so true. You know what I mean? Because just imagine, just business wise, you could lose potentially somebody you could have made millions with if you get offended by something, you know. It kind of reminded me on that book too, there was a story about like somebody cutting you off in traffic, and it's like, it's so easy to get mad, right? But it's like, what if you don't? Like, and that's the thing, you have the choice to either get offended or not. It's really a choice if you think about it. Right. So that's where the whole thing comes from too, where, you know, don't speak while you're mad or anger, you know, with anger, basically wait, think about the situation, and then you're going to come to find out that if you make the right choice every time of not get offended, then your life is positive, in a positive note.
It makes a lot of sense. Like, my wife always thinks it's really crazy how much, I think I live that way a lot, actually. Like, I really don't give a shit what people think about me or what I'm doing.
Yeah.
But a lot of times she's just like, I just don't understand how you don't care. I'm like, why would I care? Why would I let that impact my day? Why would I let someone have that kind of power over me, you know? And I don't know, maybe it's just kind of like my upbringing or something like that. But
what it comes down to, they have a remote, like a joystick, you know, or one of those Nintendo sticks. Like, if they come at you, because you got to realize, like, whatever that person, if they're coming at you in a negative way, then that just tells you they need some work to do on themselves, right? Yeah, it's their own issue.
I even know people who are like constantly upset or constantly like feeling victimized by things. And I'm just like, man, like, that's got to be exhausting to live your life that way.
No, for sure.
There's true, you know, victims in situations, obviously, but like when it's just every opportunity you get,
you make react like that. Yeah,
it's exhausting.
And if they have that stick, that remote, really they're controlling you. And kind of what you were saying right now, basically they control you. And at the end, if you do react to what they're poking at you for, then at the end of the day, you're hurting yourself. So, you know, you ignore that negativity, you're helping yourself. And like I said, it's actually health. It's not just, you know, mentally and physically, like you actually get sick. There's been a lot of books that I read too, where and I don't want to name a specific disease because I'm not a doctor, but there's a lot of different diseases that actually come from being angry, being negative, being offended all the time. Like it's actually proven, you know what I mean? So it's just crazy. So yeah, you have a choice every time, every situation. Think before you act, and you live your life like that.
It's like you can't always control what happens, but you control your reaction.
Exactly. So perfect. Yep. And just live life unoffendable like that. It's
Who's
a perfect book.
The author?
Brent Hansen is his name.
Okay.
Yeah, let me double check. Yep, Brent Hansen. So Unoffendable. Great book. Great. It goes into relationships and everything. So yeah, you have no right to be offended. But today we have a special guest, man. I'm gonna bring him in.
This is our first 2-time guest. Damn.
yeah, dude. He's a mogul, a public figure, and the mogul himself.
I should have said that. I immediately regretted it because I know it wouldn't stop. I'm forging my reality.
Yeah. You did. No, but I'm excited with this episode because today we're going to go over your last flip and, you know, the details from the very beginning to the end and how everything went. So yeah, I'm excited.
I'm excited to tell you guys about it. I mean, you know a lot about it already, but I think the reason we really wanted to take an episode to talk about this one is because there's so many lessons that I learned along the way. And I hope that I can break it down for everyone and then show you like what I learned along the way, how that's going to affect future deals and my mentality on things. And so if you're watching, I have a pen and paper here because I want to leave myself notes, because what I want to do is break it down from the beginning to the end sequentially, but then also kind of take points and stop at certain points to kind of be like, okay, well, this happened, so this is what I learned, this is what I'm gonna do going forward. Because I think it's important for us to really, I don't know if meditate's the right word, but to really sit and think about these deals as we get them, because you got to figure out like, what did I do wrong? What did I do right? What do I need to keep doing? What do I not do again? Because, if you make a mistake once, it's whatever. It's just a mistake.
And,
if you make
and
it
the
again,
thing with that, it's that it doesn't matter. It could be a billionaire, and I was gonna mention some names, but I'd rather not. But even whatever level they're at right now, there's still. I guarantee you that they look back at that very last deal that they just got done doing and learned something. Like
Right.
my point is, there's always something to learn every single deal that you do.
Right.
So,
and this one, like I said, it was kind of a special scenario because honestly, once you hear about like everything went wrong all along the way for everything. But again, I want to use it as a teachable moment for anyone who's either in it or wanting to get in it. And when I had actually closed on the house, I was telling you, I kind of feel bad because I posted a picture of me all happy holding that check that I got. But in the caption I put on there that the number on the check looks real. It's like 59 grand.
Yeah.
It looks like, oh, holy crap. Like he made a ton of money. I was like, this is very deceiving. Because as you'll see when I explain it, like that is not what I took home at all.
yeah.
But yeah, there's a lot of lessons to be learned there. And like I said, I'll break it down. And you stop me, I guess. At any point if you have questions,
for sure. I'm ready, bro. I got a lot of questions. And actually, yeah, if you could start from the very beginning, like how did you find that deal?
So that's actually another thing. I have friends who work in different industries that basically they're kind of like my lead generators. So what I do is like, hey, if you work in siding and roofing, you work on foundations, if you're going to do a bid for someone and it's like a $30,000 job, whatever the case, because roofs are expensive and foundations are super expensive. If you're doing that type of bid and they're like, oh, well, I don't have the money, but the place is in rough shape. I tell these guys, and look, I give them my cards and I'm like, hey, hold on to these cards. If you do a bid like that and you're hearing that type of deal from the homeowner, just tell them like, hey, I know a guy who'll buy the house in its current condition for cash, the whole bit, that we'll close fast, whatever, all cash. And
as is.
And so when they give them my card, if I close on that house, I give that individual that got me that lead $1,000 cash, and I give them the work because it needs to get done anyway. So that really kind of helps encourage people to send me leads.
Yeah.
That's
awesome marketing. I love that.
Yeah, and in this case, it was that same type of situation where I had a buddy who kind of had an in on this property. What's funny is how the property came for sale. So this is a really good lesson for anyone. And I didn't know this until it happened, but my buddy called me up. He's like, hey, there's this house that's for sale in the area. At first I was like,
so was it like for sale by owner then?
It actually wasn't even for sale yet. Like they were painting the outside just to get it ready.
And he talked to them.
He had talked to them about it, right?
On his route. Okay.
Yep. And so he brings it to me and I'm like, all right, I'll go check it out. And I go talk to the couple. And, I don't like to go into a house like, hey, I want to buy your house. Like, you got to build rapport. You got to talk to them, see what's going on. What had happened in this case was it was an older couple that they had actually owned the house since like the late 80s, I want to say. And into like 2018, I think they sold it. This same couple that was now selling it again. So what had happened was like in the 90s at some point, there was a fire in the basement of the house. And the basement was unfinished. But whatever happened, there was some smoke damage. It wasn't like horrible, but it was enough to do some damage down there. So those owners, they went ahead and they had a permit pulled. It got approved. They did it the right way. They fixed it. And so I want to say it was in 99 when that fire was. They had it all the way through to 2018, and they had it as a rental. And all the way through to 2018, they kept it, and another investor bought it from them to use it as a rental too.
Oh, okay.
Because it's real close to the university down here.
Okay.
And so it was a great rental for students. At some point during that sale, for those of you who don't know, when you sell a house, you have to fill out a disclosure where you tell them all the issues that you know of. part of that disclosure is, do you know of any fires, floods, and blah, blah, that type of thing. And the
Any
owner,
water damage or fire damage. Yeah.
Yeah,
That
and
in
so
the past, yep.
the owner didn't disclose that. I don't want to say they lied. I don't want to say they didn't. But for whatever reason, I don't understand. They said
The first sale.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, yeah. When they sold it in 2018, the guy that owned it when the fire
Okay.
happened, he was selling it in 2018 to someone else. On there, there's a yes, no, and I don't know. And I believe he put no on the disclosure that there was no fire. So that's a definitive, like, no, there's never been a fire as long as I've known, which is obviously.
And quick lesson with that, right? If you're on that side of things, I've filled those out before, and it's so easy just to be like, no, right?
Just
like,
the one line.
Just like one of those medical, like,
Right, yeah.
no,
Yeah,
But-
no, I mean, but it so here's the lesson in that one, because he lied
That
about
simple
it,
no.
or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
In 2020, 2 years later, the new owner figured out that they lied about it, and they sued the old owner, and the old owner was forced by the court to buy it back at the new value, which was like $20-some thousand more. So this guy had
So crazy.
Yeah, I didn't even know that
So
could
that guy
happen.
did a quick flip anyways.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, he made a good amount of money right there in a couple years, but he wasn't planning on it. You know?
Yeah.
But I think, and what's weird to me is that
Wow, and market value. That's huge.
at market value, yeah, and the
Wow.
guy had done a couple improvements. I mean, they were cosmetic kind of,
But not enough for-
not a ton. But so anyway, so that's when I came across this couple, because they were just rushing, like they just wanted to get it sold, and I definitely saw that there was a sense of urgency there, and not even so much that the owners that had to buy it back, they actually had to end up taking out money from like their retirement, all sorts of stuff, or something like big like that. So they obviously wanted to recoup that money as quickly as they can. And I want to say they were into it for like 96 and some change. And I was like, well, how about an even 100,
Yeah.
And they were just like, yes, like quick. Like it was just
They were just
fastest
done.
transaction. Because it wasn't so much like the time, but also it was like a traumatic experience for them.
Yeah.
So they just wanted to get rid of it. But I swear this house is haunted because it was a traumatic experience for me too. But
Did you experience any?
no, not like actual haunted. I mean,
geez.
there was a few nights I was working late and you hear noises, but
You were probably just tired, bro.
I was tired, and the house is 117 years old.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
there's gonna make some noises.
Yeah. Some
But-
squeaks.
But yeah, so I ended up buying it. And this actually the guy that
So let me back up. So okay, you got the lead. How'd you build rapport? Like, what'd you do? Did you go knock after you heard about it, or did
actually,
your guy tell him,
my
hey,
guy
my
told
guy's
him.
gonna okay.
My guy told him like, hey, I know a guy. He'll come look at it. And I mean, he was still there when I got there.
Mhm.
And so I met them, and actually, no, first I met the wife.
Mhm.
The husband was doing something else because she was painting like the garage. And so I walked through the house, and she kind of explained like the history of when they had it. She was open about the fire like right away. Because really, honestly, if you go down in the basement, it's all exposed.
Yeah.
You look up, you can see that there was some fire
Like
damage.
it's obvious, yeah.
But all the wood was like sistered to the next. So it was all done right. But
Right, yeah. And like you said, the permits were done.
Right. And so, but I think she was just making sure like, hey, this time I'm going to tell whoever, because I think it was just the husband that did this stuff last time and wasn't truthful about it. But whatever the case is.
And you know what's crazy, real quick on that, like people fail to realize like sometimes that fire could have been a reason why they had to redo electrical or
Right.
there's been in my experience with rentals, like I've bought some that had like a big damage where a few years ago they redid it, and you look at it, it's a brand new place. So it's not like a negative
It's
thing.
not.
You know what
I mean, and it was so long ago that it doesn't even matter anymore.
Exactly.
So that's
literally.
why I was so confused. Like, why would you even lie about this? But
Yeah,
like I said,
yeah.
you don't ever know people's.
Well, maybe they
intentions.
just went through the nose and
Could have been. I mean, could have been an honest mistake. I don't know. Whatever. But
so you knocked.
yeah. So she walked me through the wife,
Mhm.
and she was a super nice lady. And I kind of put a conditional offer like right on the spot. And she's like, all right, well, when my husband gets back, let me talk to him. And I was like, if you
what
do,
offer? Like
I think at that point I offered like 90 or something like that.
Okay.
I didn't know what they were into it for. And actually, I thought they owned it cash. So I was gonna consider asking them for seller financing, and I actually did ask for it. But then when the husband came back later on that day, I came back again because I wanted to make sure I didn't. There was something here. I was like, I know there's potential here, so I don't want to like lose it.
Yeah.
And so I stayed really persistent. She gave me the husband's number. I called him right away. I'm like, hey, I was looking at your house. I want to see when you're gonna be there so I can come back and talk to you, because she was kind of leaving a lot of the decision making up to him.
Yeah.
But yeah, just off the top of my head when I was talking, like, yeah, I could probably do like 90 or something like that.
Okay.
And so as I was doing that, I hadn't even like ran my comps or anything, like, because I was on my way to work when my guy called me, so I didn't even have
But
time.
I'm sure before that you kind of knew what it was, or
I didn't, honestly. I'd never even seen this
Jesus.
neighborhood. I knew like the part of town it was in.
Yeah.
But because
like so you knew the area basically.
I knew the area, but I had my impression of the area was like, oh, that's not going to be good at all, even if I want to look at it. And I was like, whatever, let me go ahead and try it, take a look. And when I took a look, like this, it's funny because this area is kind of rough.
Yeah, but it's like a dead end. So
yeah,
it
but
makes
like
it clean.
that little block or two, it's like, holy, like there's like some nice ass houses.
Next door, yeah,
there's
the house next door.
There's like a $500,000 house next door, like on both sides. And I'm like, okay, well, this could actually work.
Yeah.
But the husband came back at some point and I walked through with him, and I had asked if they were open to doing seller financing. And so for those of you who don't know what seller financing is if a homeowner owns the house cash, or they're just free and clear, I should say, if they own it, they don't have any sort of loan on it or any liens on it, they can, I can still pay a down payment to them. So let's say we settled on $100,000. I'd be like, hey, I'll pay you 20 grand right now. And then you finance the 80 for me for 5 years.
So
I'll pay you
basically
interest.
the bank.
So they are the bank. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then typically it's like a balloon type situation where like, okay, in 5 years, I'm going to refinance and pay you back out. And then, so, I mean, if you can find that, that's awesome. That's probably the cheapest way.
I have a rental that way.
Yeah. So it's the cheapest way to do it. I tried it. I was like, oh, I haven't done it before. Let me see. And they said no. I mean, he said no immediately. And which is, you're usually
checked no.
You checked no.
It was one of the checks.
Yeah, no. It was an immediate no. But then he kind of went into like, oh, well, we actually have money that we owe on this because of this. And so, okay, well, it makes sense.
So, yeah.
So we did a little bit of negotiating.
And that's what's beautiful. If they would have owned it cash, I guarantee you there's a 90% chance they would have done it. You know what I mean?
I do think they would have, honestly.
Yeah, it sounds that from what I'm getting.
Because they had already been investors, so they understood the power of that interest, so that's what I'd be paying them.
Like that, there's one, write that down, bro. There's one lesson right there. No, but anybody listening out there, that's really a lesson that basically the answer is always no until you ask.
Sure, yeah. I mean, and I've kind of taken on that mentality for a lot of things. And you're right. It's always no if you don't ask. But so, I mean, it was no in that case too. And I was like, all right, well, I had debated. So here's, I put it under contract. But the contract that the purchase agreement that I signed, that I have them sign, says on there that, I'll try to do cash. But if not, then I'll get a bank loan. And obviously it kind of gives you a way to get out if the financing doesn't work out. And I explained, I was very honest with them on it. I was like, I really don't have any doubts that I'll get the cash for this, because I think we've set a 1 month close. And so, and I even put down $5,000 earnest money deposit, which is a lot. I mean, $100,000, that's a lot. Yeah. So just to show them like, hey, I'm serious, because I knew there was potential there. But I put it under contract, had really no idea how I was going to get the money for it. I typically do private money for my deals, and it's expensive, but if the numbers work, the numbers work. In this case, I'm like, I don't know if I can actually handle, like, that's a pretty big payment, and interest only for however many months it's going to take. So my guy that actually found me the deal, he was just kind of curious. He's like, okay, well, how are you going to work this? Like, what are you going to get out of it? What do you think you're going to put into it? And so I broke it down for him, and he's like, well, would you want me to help out with the money on this?
And so with that, he's never done anything.
He's never done anything real estate related at all. Okay. No. I went to my bank. I told him, I was like, well, let's put a pin in that. Let me see, So I went to my bank, and my bank pretty much told me like, yeah, dude, like, you're tapped out. We can't loan you anything because of debt to income ratio. So I was like, all right, well, I was like, what about if I have a co-signer?
So hold on, let me stop you right there, bro. I love that. Like, you literally had a whole deal going on, and you've talked about this before, where like you make the deal and the money, you're going to figure it out. So that this is literally a perfect example. Like you have this house already under contract, and then here you are trying to find the money now. Right.
Which is I love it. The money doesn't matter. The deal is what matters.
Yep.
So my bank's like, no, we're not going to help you out. So I talked to that guy. I was like, okay, well, what did you have in mind in terms? I was like, because I'm tapped out with the bank, they won't loan me any more money by myself. So he co-signed with me, so that now we have more, credit available and income and all that.
Yeah.
And so then the bank, and we actually ended up going with his bank at that point, because they were more investor friendly. They actually gave us a loan that was a flip loan, which I kind of explained that a little bit. Yeah. But so the deal was, we were going to, with a property that is an investment property, banks don't give you the FHA 3.5%.
Yeah.
Like you have to put typically 20% down, you know?
Yeah.
So on $100,000, we put 20% down. He put $10,000 down. I put $10,000 down. And then I was going to finance, since I needed him to get the loan. I was like, okay, well, we originally thought we would put like 15,000 worth of just mostly cosmetic stuff into the house. And it was just going to be a quick, like maybe 6 weeks, you know, get in, get out type of thing.
Yeah.
And that was the plan, but it didn't work out that way.
Yeah.
So anyway, so that
Apparently.
yeah. So we went ahead and we went in on it. And I kind of got started. I was gonna do some light stuff myself, and then hire whoever I could for what we needed. Again, it was just gonna be like paint and like update the kitchen a little bit, new appliances type stuff, and update the bathrooms. Not like completely remodel them, but
okay.
update
So
them.
how long did it take you, and how long did you have planned? If you could answer that question.
Okay, so we originally
right now.
planned with a combination of me doing some of the work and hiring some light stuff to a contractor. We figured 6 to 8 weeks. We figured we put 15,000 in.
Yeah.
6 to 8 weeks, and we figured we could sell that $100,000 house for about $140,000.
Okay.
So like, okay, we'll each clear 10 grand and within less than 2 months. That's not
how long
bad.
did it take you?
It ended up taking almost 8 months. And it cost me $41,500 in rehab.
Ah, okay.
So yeah.
And I just wanted to clarify that, you know, because things work that way sometimes. You know, you gotta kind of plan for that. But obviously the numbers were still there. But continue. I just wanted to.
No, yeah. So your little
it's
preview.
a good point right there. Yeah.
Right, my nightmare. And so
he's like, that's nothing right now.
So I mean, so the whole way through, like, okay, we're gonna do a 50-50. This is the deal, because really, honestly, 15 grand wasn't really much. I can handle it. And so anyway, so I started kind of breaking things down, like the project, like, okay, this is what we're gonna do with this bathroom. We're gonna do that bathroom with the kitchen. I started breaking some like not breaking this wall, like when you start working on things, you know, sometimes you break a hole open into a wall and like, oh my God, like this is a mess. So that kind of happened like immediately almost. Yeah. And at that point I was like, okay.
Like where, like a bathroom? Like
it was a bathroom.
Okay.
I forgot what I needed. No, it wasn't even that. I wasn't even there yet. Actually, I put a deal out on this Facebook group of real estate investors that I'm in. Yeah. And I asked about if anyone knows like a good demo person.
Yeah.
And so then there's this realtor that I had like just kind of known in passing. She reached out to me. Was like, hey, my boyfriend is a contractor. And so she approached me and asked if I'd be willing to do a profit sharing type setup where instead of paying them as a contractor.
And just real quick, bro, because I think we talked about this. Me being, you know, owning a construction company. You know, it's so tough with that because you just brought up a great point. You open a wall and let's say that our bid was just to tear out the drywall, put new drywall over. Well, now you open the wall, there's the wood is black from mold, right? Yeah. So that, you know, anybody out there listening, like you be mindful of that, you know, with your contractors. Because it's like, you know, like my guys aren't going to go in there and tear out a whole wall and
for the same price.
Yeah, exactly. So because I think it was a good point because we talked about it before, but yeah, go ahead. So
she approaches me, says that her boyfriend's a contractor, would be willing to do a profit sharing where they handle all the rehab and the material cost, and then we split profits. I think 3 ways is what we had, which she had, because I told her I had a partner on that one. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, oh, well, let's talk about it. You know, I had my partner go out to dinner with me, with her and her with that agent and her boyfriend. And the guy was kind of like quiet. He said he was from like Chicago. He's been doing this for like 8 years or something like that. And so I was like, all right, well, let's give it a try. She was going to go to an attorney and get an actual agreement written up so that we can have this done. And they were supposed to, I don't remember the specific dates, mind you. I bought this house. It was October 4th of last year of 2020. And so I think at some point in like, we were towards the end of, or middle of October, maybe the end of October at this point. And I was like, wow, I already wasted 3 weeks on this. Like, let's get it going, you know? And so when we had talked to them, we'd agreed kind of just like oral or verbal agreement that like, okay, we'll go ahead and do this. You go work with the attorney and I'll sign it when I get it type thing. So he was supposed to show up on like a Wednesday, that next Wednesday, whenever it was. And, you know, I just assumed, like I say, he said he's going to be there Wednesday. And so Friday comes around and I'm like, well, let me go check on the progress. And nothing's been done. No one's been in the house. I can definitely tell nothing's been done. And so I don't even have that guy's number because it's kind of weird. Like I'd have to work through his girlfriend she was like, I don't know, it was weird.
Like the situation.
Yeah, it was just kind of weird, like I
setup.
said. Yeah. And so I was like, all right. So I reached out to her. I'm like, hey, what's going on? Like, you guys said you were going to be here Wednesday. And so she tells me, oh, well, his nephew had a wedding in like St. Louis or something. I'm just like, okay, then why did you guys agree to come on Wednesday if
communication?
Right.
And that's the biggest thing with this business, bro, because things happen, right? Like things are bound to happen.
But
in life.
A wedding, you knew about it. Like, come on.
Right, exactly.
You know,
but I'm saying even emergencies but the thing is communication. I've learned that sometimes the hardest thing that you have to tell somebody that they don't want to hear is the best thing you could tell them. Yeah, it's the best thing you could tell them, because guess what? That's communication.
Right.
And I'm sure my wife is happy about that, because I now I'm like pretty good at communicating or getting better. But so work on communication, because it could have been as easy as letting you know, hey, we have a wedding, and that was it. Like,
or
but
just
now it becomes this issue, because it's
place.
like, oh, so there's a wedding.
Yeah. So she tells me that, and obviously I'm just like, well, what the hell? And I have no patience for that type of communication in a business sense. There's really no excuse for that in my book. And I was done. And so I called my wife, and I'm like all pissed off. I'm like, oh, they were supposed to be there. They're not there. And I was like, I'm just going to, because we hadn't signed any paperwork or anything yet. They haven't done any work at this point. We're still waiting for her to get it written up with the attorney. And I was like, I was done with it. But my wife's a therapist, so she's very empathetic and stuff. She's like, well, you don't know, kind of same stuff. Yeah. And my gut was like, this isn't.
So you got very offended.
Oh yeah, no, I was offended. Well, I mean,
going back to the book.
Yeah, I mean,
you're like, I wish I would have known about this book.
But you know, it's funny. And so my wife kind of convinced me, like, well, just see what happens. I think it was just whatever, just bad communication. Just talk to them. And so I did. I went back to them, like, look, like I need better communication than this. Like, I'm not gonna have this happen again.
Exactly. Yeah.
And she was like, oh yeah, you're right. You know, whatever. Okay. So then they start working on it, and it'd been maybe, I don't know. They took a while to even like get there. I think maybe it took like another week and a half to start there. And I had a weird feeling, and I have an internal struggle saying this because I feel like I'm being judgmental, because I did start, they were doing the demo first of the kitchen and the bathrooms of what we needed, at least in the bathrooms, because there was 2 windows in the shower that I wanted to get rid of and cover up with just drywall. And we were going to put a tub surround instead of, like, it had a clawfoot tub, so we were trying to get rid of it. But I felt bad because when I went to go see the job site, I noticed that their tools were like Harbor Freight brand and like the store brand of like Menards type stuff. Yeah. And again, like if you're just starting out, then dude, I'm not gonna knock your hustle. Like you're doing something, you know.
But say it, like.
Well, no, not even that. Like,
well,
you told me you've been doing this 8 years.
I was just gonna say that. I mean, if you've been doing it for, I would say, more than 5 years, I would hope that you've made enough money to invest in yourself.
And then, exactly, you're investing in yourself, and you're also investing in quality.
Yeah.
Because obviously, if you're looking just to get past this job and into the next one, and just hopefully this tool works for the next month, you know, it just seems like a really short-sighted way of doing things. And mind you, again, if this was a kid that was like, oh, I just started, like, makes perfect sense.
Exactly. Yeah.
But if someone has been doing this 8 years, like, no way. There's, you know, so that was weird to me.
Yeah.
But whatever, I didn't think anything of it. And so they did the demo. They were actually really quick about the demo, and they'd been working there for a while, and we gave them like
right now they did the demo. How much are you in right now? Like time wise, like how long?
Time wise, by the time they were done with that and we agreed on all that stuff, mind you, I hadn't signed anything yet because we were still waiting on her to get that to us. I think I'd probably like just wasted like a month.
So right there, you knew this is not going to be 6 to 8 weeks.
Yeah. Okay. And then we were like, okay, maybe it'll be. So at that point, we were into it like November. I was like, okay, well, let's try to get it done by Christmas or something like that, you know?
Okay.
And so we had a list of work that they had to do. And so they did the demo stuff. And then we had shiplap, like accent walls and little things like that. And they were supposed to start it at some point. And I knew that they had started it. But at some point, it was like a Friday evening. I was like, oh, I should go check on it again. And there was like a little like TV cubby type space or whatever. Okay. And then there was a wall that was in the dining room that was shiplap. So I got this shiplap that he's got to put up. And mind you, shiplap is like actual. I mean, it's almost like doing trim. Like it's really, you got to be precise on this kind of stuff if you've ever put it up. But I went to go check it out. And it was just offensive how bad it was. Like that's the best way I could put it. It was offensive how bad this guy's quality of work was. And I mean, it was like, so we had, you know, outlets in 2 of the walls that they were doing. And I mean, honestly, even if I put the cover the plate on the outlet, like it still wouldn't cover the hole that they had left around.
Okay.
The
actual material.
the material, like you cut it wrong. They had like these jagged ends. I'm like, dude, buy a new freaking blade on your saw. Like it's just these little simple things. Yeah. And then so in the cubby, so there was 3 walls of shiplap in this TV area that, you know, common sense tells you if you're going to do shiplap has lines.
Yeah.
These lines have to match up on all these walls or it's going to look off. It was like maybe anywhere from 1/4 to 1/2 inch off on any given wall.
Oh, wow.
And there was like, he was doing like, he used crown molding for some reason on the trim, like to actually trim in each of those segments, which I thought, you know, crown molding, if you've ever used it, like that's not easy stuff to cut with. But then again, this is a flat surface. You didn't need to use that. So I don't really know why he used it. But even if whatever, it would work, like when the 2 walls were meeting at a 90-degree angle, he didn't use any sort of miter cuts. He literally just like butted these 2 pieces together. And I wish I could like show you. I mean, I had pictures of it. I took pictures immediately of it. But like he butted these things up. And mind you, like it's not like flat trim. Like it's got all sorts of like a little detail to it. So you can't just butt it up against it, you know? And it was just, I mean, dude, it was so bad.
Yeah.
So that night I call, you know, because I don't really talk to the guy. I call the agent, his girlfriend, and I'm like, hey, like what happened here? You know, so I explained to her. And I'm just like, we need to meet tomorrow morning. This was a Friday.
I think you need a shot for that, bro. you
seem
stressed.
I mean, it gives me like chest pains, man. Like it was just so. But anyway, so I tell her about it, and so we meet that next morning. I thought he was gonna be with her too because I was gonna walk them through, and I was ready to fire them. Yeah, like that was like, this is it. Like, there's no way. This is like high school shop class type stuff. Like, you can't do this right, then I am definitely not letting you do any tile. I'm not letting you do any flooring. You know. So let's take this shot.
Yeah.
So she shows up in the morning without him, and I walk her through this whole mess of a shiplap thing that he did. And she's completely understanding. And I told her, look, I can't do this. And I was like, I'm gonna have to let you guys go. I was like, I'll pay for the materials that you guys spent on. I'll pay you for the demo. They did a great job on the demo, actually. And so she's like completely understanding about it.
Yeah.
Then he shows up maybe like 20 minutes later. And dude, it was one of the hardest things I've ever had to do because I had to sit there and dissect this guy's work and tell him that he's not good enough.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, you know, the way I explained it to him was that this work was so bad, it is not part of my brand. Like, you know, we talked about it before. You know, I want to help people find affordable houses that are nice, that are good quality. You know, I don't want you calling me in 2 years telling me that things are falling apart.
Yeah. And
so I had to explain that to him, and I was like, there is a market for what you're doing. Like, I'm not gonna lie, like there's a market for every level of quality. That's not me though. And so he was like a little upset at first, but I think at the end, you know, he understood, and it was whatever. He grabbed his stuff and he left. And so then I'm looking at him like, damn, like they did all this work that I'm gonna have to pull down and redo. And I really was kind of. So
did you immediately make a decision there, like, okay, I'm just gonna work on it myself, or was there that thought of, well, let me find somebody? Like,
honestly, like he kind of like left a salty taste in my mouth about the contractor thing.
Done,
I was like, you know what, I'm gonna do it myself because I can do it better, you know, type thing, which was a horrible mistake. Well, because what happened? So those windows in the upstairs bathroom that we were gonna close off and when that wall got knocked down, I was doing some kind of work on one of the side walls that it was still drywalled, but like I literally could just push my finger through the wall. It was that rotted. So then I am like, oh, well, let me open this up. And I opened the wall up, and there was all this rot from those windows that were just in there that just weren't in right originally. Shit. So we closed it off on the outside. We actually had leftover siding, so it matched perfect from when they did it last time, whatever. Yeah. And I had to like rebuild. I mean,
it's for the bathroom upstairs.
Upstairs, right? Yeah. Okay. So I had to gut that entire bathroom and then rebuild like a wall, because the walls were probably like, the bathroom's probably like 7 feet wide, and you know, tub surrounds are 5 feet. Yeah. So I had to like build a wall so it has something to butt up. I mean, it was just this whole thing. It became this whole huge project. And then the electrical there was bad. The ceiling fan in there was just like, I mean, it barely was any light. So now that I closed those windows off, it was super dark in there because that ceiling fan, or the vent fan that was in there, it was really, really dim. So I'm like, okay, well, I got to replace that now. And so it just like kind of just started snowballing. And then the exact same thing happened in the downstairs, the master bath, it wasn't an issue of like rot. It was just the shower stall that was in there was just in really bad shape. So I had to pull it out, and then I had to kind of.
Were those numbers already in your original numbers, or is this new stuff? Like the bathroom, like did you have those numbers figured in there?
I don't remember at this point. I don't think I did have. I think okay. So
or what was your plan? For
I had
those
a light cosmetic, like paint. using,
exactly.
Like
so your thought was like quick in and out.
Yeah,
for
very
the
light, very light cosmetic stuff in there, and it turned into be 2 full bathroom rehabs. Which anyone that's worked on a bathroom knows that it's expensive.
It adds up. Bathrooms and kitchens. Yeah, it just add up.
So I spent, God, man, I don't even know how much time on those bathrooms because, mind you, I have a full-time job. Yeah. I have a family at home. And so at this point, I felt like I had this abundance of time. And I also thought in the back of my mind, I was like, well, it's winter time right now. You know, Nebraska is really shitty in the winter time.
There's like, nothing to do, so I'll just...
Not just that, but like houses don't sell as well in the winter too. So I'm like, well, maybe if I kind of wait till it's a little warmer, it might sell better. So that's mistake like number 10 at this point on my end. Because I thought I had enough time, or you know, I had more time than I really did.
Yeah.
And so I took it easy that first like 3 months. So
looking back, quick question: how long? Okay, so you said 6 to 8 weeks, right? Like you thought, but how long do you think the deal would have been sweeter if you could have done it sooner? Like what would have been the max time, if that makes sense? That you
so like knowing then what I know now.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
I shouldn't have been more than probably 4 months.
So like 4 months, you would have won out really good.
Right. I would have still been all right at 4 months. But again, I thought I had all this time. So I'm like, oh, well, I'll put in a couple hours here, a couple hours there, maybe this weekend. And I kind of just took my time. And then, dude, before I knew it, man, I was like, damn, I've had this house for 5 months and I've paid this much in holding costs and utilities.
And that's a great thing to point out to our audience. The payments don't stop.
Yeah.
You know, the payments are still going. So whoever you got the money from is still collecting.
This was a nice deal. I didn't get into it, but the loan that we got from that bank, it was a 12-month loan that we were that for $80,000 because we put $20,000 down. So it was a 12-month loan, and I was paying like $400 a month, interest only. And then when the house sells, I have to sell it within a year. Then the house gets paid back at closing, or the bank gets paid back at closing. And so it was a really great product that the bank offered, and I don't know.
Maybe that's why you were like laid back.
Like, I was very just like I had my guard down, and it was a lack of experience and a lot of that.
So fast forwarding then, so you sat there with it. You didn't like you kind of worked a couple hours here and there. So when did you make the decision of being like, okay, I need to get this done?
So I bought it October. I would say I was probably into like February, and I was like, damn, I haven't done anything. I need to really get moving. And again, as I started, I mean, we had a bad toilet plumbing issue, and that upstairs bathroom that was actually, we had never used it. And
wow.
And so
you found out?
When we found out, like, so when someone used it, like literally it was just water pouring onto the living room floor from the ceiling because that plumbing was all messed up. So we had to get all that redone. And yeah, it was, you know, because when I bought the house, there was, you can definitely tell there was a patch in the drywall and the ceiling right in the same spot. And I asked the owner, I was like, hey, what's going on there? He goes, oh, there was a leak. I'll get it fixed before you buy it. Again, another mistake to learn from is that we didn't put it on the purchase agreement that he would fix that, because that would have given me rights to either not pay him or whatever the case is, or have him come back legally, fix it. I trusted that he was going to do it. He didn't touch it. He clearly didn't touch it. So again, another thing, put everything in that agreement on the purchase agreement in writing. You have to have it in writing. So that was one of many things that I didn't expect that we'd have to fix, and expenses and all sorts of stuff. But so yeah, I'm about February, and then I'm like, man, like I'll be there like a whole day on a Saturday, and I barely get anything done. So another thing that I learned throughout this process is that I'm really bad at budgeting time in terms of not a budget. I would say like
scheduling.
Not scheduling even, like just kind of just knowing how long things take.
Okay.
By the time I was done with things, so I would always give myself like, oh, this is gonna take 2 hours, and it takes 6 or 8 hours.
Yeah.
So I kind of figured at the end of like, okay, so right now at my experience level, if I think it's gonna take X, really it's gonna be X times 4.
And you know what, bro? It's funny, going back to communication, me owning a construction company, even if I was just dealing with the house where we thought it was going to be a 5-hour job in and out for drywall. Well, a week and a half later, right? Like we thought it was a day
Yeah.
job, 2 day job. A week and a half later, and I'm not gonna sit here and tell you that they were there every day,
Right.
but we had to go back a couple times and it was literally like the humidity in that house, like it was just
wasn't dry.
Yeah. So and the glue that was there prior, so we ended up taking the whole wall down and putting new drywall because it was that much easier and for the client to be happy, you know what I mean? And super happy at the end. They loved it. But that's why when we know with that great perfect example that you just had, even if you think is going to be, I always tell the customers, hey, just know they'll be mindful that things can happen.
Right.
We're going to try to knock it out, in 3 days, or
you got to be
however many.
flexible. You don't when you open
and
a wall.
it goes back to communication. And
Right.
like I said, our clients were super happy with the end product, but it took, a couple weeks more than what we expected.
I mean, you just never know. You open up a wall, you don't know what's going to happen.
Exactly. Yeah.
So we kind of had that happen like left and right with things, and
getting knocked out left and right.
I know, man. I was taking hits, man, just like kicking the nuts like every week. Something was happening, and so I think I was pretty steady about it from February, and I think March comes around, April comes around, I'm feeling a lot of pressure. I'm like, damn, like this.
So April. So how much have you got done in April?
Honestly, bro, it's like a blur now. Like when I think back about it,
yeah,
I do know that like the last 6 weeks. So we closed on this house. What are we, mid-June right now?
Mm-hmm.
I had it ready. I wanted it to be ready. I mean, every month I was like, oh, I have it ready this month. It never happened.
New date every month.
Like, yeah. But then like the last like 6 weeks, I think the beginning of June is when we kind of were like done. But before that, when we were actually done, or I was done, I want to say like the last 6 weeks, it was like every single night, hours on end until 10 o'clock, right after I got off work, all weekend.
And you took a week off.
And so since I have a day job, I had to take, some PTO I think it was like a week and 2 days I ended up taking off because I thought to myself again, oh, if I take that time off and work here all day, 12-hour days, I'm going to get this done.
Right.
And so I had my stager come in like at the beginning of that week, and I walked her through the house, like, this is what we're going to do before. And she's like, and I was like, I'm going to be done next week, Friday. She's like, no, you're not. And I'm like, shut up. Like, you don't know. No, I'm going to do it. You don't know how, and dude,
sure enough.
that Wednesday comes around. I'm like, oh, I'm not done.
Well, I mean, I had to go help you. I had my guys go pick up a piano.
Yeah. I mean, it was like, so I wasn't done. And mind you, that was like, damn, dude, I was like April probably still at that point.
Yeah.
And so I still had a solid month of working nights and
so
weekends.
You finished it up. You got it done, right? If you could now go over just at the end, like how it all worked out. I know, and what's crazy is I remember it real quick. Just you had the trip to Mexico, which in a way, like it kind of worked out how we said, like, dude, wouldn't it be amazing
nice.
if you're
like
out there and like it's sold?
Right.
Yeah. So that worked out perfectly. And I want to touch on, I think you talked about it on one of the episodes too, but since we're in the subject of like numbers with the agent, when I told you, hey, bro, if the numbers work,
right.
because you didn't have agents fee figured out in there.
I didn't. When I budgeted for this project, obviously my budget was off, my time budget was off, and I didn't consider realtor fees. I was cocky about how the market is right now. I was like, oh, I'm going to sell this. And I've been spoiled because honestly, every other house is sold in 24 hours. And I've done it before. And now I'm like, oh, there's no way. Like, this house is gorgeous now, And I didn't account for needing a realtor. And with me so I had a wedding in Mexico, and I was like, oh man, this would be great if I could just get this done and sold before I leave. But if nothing else, so I think the week before we left, I was like, well, I'm going to try for sale by owner for a little bit. And we got a ton of traffic. Yeah. But another mistake here that I made that I definitely won't make again was that this house was actually part of a smaller, the lot that this house sits on was a part of one of the houses next door, which is massive. So the house, this house was built in 1904, and the house next door was built before then, but it was a doctor that built that house. And he built this house that I owned as his practice. And so he didn't have a backyard.
Just an extra house?
It was just a house that he did his practice out of. Like, this is where his office was.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And so that's why. So the floor plan was a little weird, but it still worked. And so it made more sense why that floor plan was the way it was. But I bought it without a yard, thinking like, oh, it's no big deal.
And literally, there's no yard.
Like no yard. Yeah, there's no yard.
The line ends right there.
Yeah, there's a detached garage, like a one-stall garage. And I had asked one of my agent buddies, like, hey, would it make sense to knock this garage down? Because it was old and falling apart anyway. would it make sense to knock that down and just put a green space so you have something of a yard? And he's like, no, you'll get more for a garage. And so I kept the garage. And I do think he was still right at the end of the day.
Yeah.
But so when we put it for sale by owner, we got a ton of traffic. I mean, dude, this house looked like, it's funny because the agent that I ended up going with, when he listed it on, and he put his Facebook thing that he's selling this house, he put on there something like, it's straight out of like your Pinterest page or Pinterest board or something like that. Because it was, dude. I use shiplap, and then like, man, people love shiplap.
Did you tell him that or?
No, I didn't tell him that.
So
but it was just so funny because the way he described it, I just thought it was hilarious. And that's kind of
awesome.
what I think of. You look at those things like what's trending right now. The gray walls and white trim and shiplap. People love fucking shiplap. And so like black hardware. I mean, the house is gorgeous. You know, I think.
It looked amazing.
And I think cosmetically, I was really happy with what I did in that house. So we got a ton of traffic just off those pictures alone. And every single time it came down to, but you don't have a yard. We want kids. We have a dog. And I'm like, damn, like this kind of sucks. So I talked to my partner on it. I'm like, I think we're going to have to get an agent on it. And he has a buddy who's an agent who's really cool. Actually, he kind of knew we were in a tight spot. Because we hadn't budgeted for an agent, and we were already we were thinking selling price was going to be 170 at this point. Mind you, we've each spent 10 grand on the down payment, and I'm about 40,000 into it at this point.
So you're at 140.
Yeah.
Which was the original sell price that you had in mind. But
since we had to redo the bathrooms, completely redo the kitchen, the whole outside looked new. Like we kept the siding, but we did all this accent paint. We did some new roofing stuff. It actually was helping increase the value of the house. And when I ran my comps on it, considering that there was no yard, I was like, I think 170 is like at the top. And I was like, I think the market's good enough where I can get 170, but I probably won't get much more. I was hoping there'd be like a bidding war, but traffic, no actual offers. I needed to go to Mexico. And then when I got back from Mexico that same day, my partner was going to Mexico. So it was like, neither of us can show it.
Yeah.
So we talked about it, and his buddy's an agent. His buddy's like, look, you guys are in a tight spot. How about I do my commission on a sliding scale? So if I sell it for the asking price, I get X. If I sell it for $5 grand more, I get a little bit more, type. So it was really cool of him to do that.
Yeah.
And it helped out. And it makes a whole world. And I really learned that this time, that you just budget for the agent. Because for one, my time is more valuable than having
and not to mention pictures, right? Like, and your pictures looked amazing. I saw the first.
Yeah, I do my own pictures, but
they came out really good. But all that, you gotta like think like that could have been time that you're spending with your family, or doing whatever else. So it's always let the agents do. I think. If you're flipping, you should. And
my conversation with you was actually a big part of that too, because I was having a hard time with it because, again, I was cocky because the market's so good. Mm-hmm. And you told me like, dude, it's just, if the numbers work, if you'll still make some money, just get the agent. And I think that was really what kind of pushed me to just be like, you know what, just do it. Like, I'm being stupid at this point. Let them do what they do. And then really when an agent lists something, and it's very true now, I realize that they have a much wider reach than I do on Zillow or on Facebook. Right. Yeah. And so
I think we talked about it too. And I don't know, it's just me speculating. So no offense to any agents out there, but I think they obviously their stuff. It's like its whole nation. They have their own nation, their own organization. So it's one of those where I've noticed that when it's a for sale by owner, they kind of stay away.
And I've stepped, but like
try to
for sale by owner too. A lot of times, depending on how the market's doing, like you can kind of get screwed on it,
Well, and you know what? Another thing with for sale by owners, I've heard a lot of people that are really rude to these agents that are bringing buyers for their home, and it's
because they don't want to pay, because the whole for sale by owners, you don't want to pay an agent.
But it's like, no, but they're bringing you that. So, anyways,
but one thing I did learn about that is that when you do for sale by owner and you don't want to pay the buyer's agent, then what happens is the buyer's agent isn't even going to have their client see that property. So now you've lost that one walkthrough. Those things add up, and it's hard to make it tangible and to be like, okay, well, this is worth this much money.
Yep.
But really, at the end of the day, you're screwing yourself.
Exactly.
And I really learned that this time, and I don't think I'm going to do another house without budgeting an agent.
Let them do their job, basically.
Right. Yeah. And hey, man, it worked. Like we hadn't signed the paperwork with the guy.
So how long after you got the agent? Like how long?
2 days.
2 days. Wow.
2 days.
Okay.
We got an offer for asking.
And you had it for sale by owner how long? A week?
Maybe like a little bit under a week.
Okay.
Yeah, something like that.
And I know also it was one of those where maybe you could have waited a little bit longer, but you were kind of done. You're just
I was done, like emotionally, mentally, physically. But then also another mistake I made in this process is that I tapped out my funds. So I use a line of credit on my primary residence to do my rehabs. And so I borrow the money either from a bank or privately to buy the house. And I use my line of credit to go ahead and pay for the rehab. So I'm not really using my money at all at any point. And I take it as, I guess, like, it's a prideful thing. Like, I don't want to tap into my savings to pay for them and stuff.
Like, you're very OPM other people's money.
And so, and I also don't want to like trouble my wife and be like, hey, babe, I need to transfer money. Like, that's not cool. So a lot of it had a lot to do with it too. And I let myself get to the point where I was $247 from capping out my HELOC. So that's all I had left.
Wow.
So, I made my June interest payment, mortgage, all that stuff, my utilities. And I was like, man, I don't want to pay for July because now I'm going to have to tap into my own money. I really don't want to do that. And so when those people put in the offer,
those utilities are annoying.
Yeah, man.
It's like, I haven't been there for a whole
dude, the AC was off every day. Like, lights were off.
And the bills are still as if you were. Like, it's crazy.
It's weird, but you got to pay them. And so...
or at least at that point, it feels like that.
When
you're just done and tired of it. Like,
so they put the offer in at asking, and they gave us till the next day, 10 p.m. to agree to it or not. And as soon as I got the text from my agent, I was in Mexico. I think it was like our first day, or maybe the second day there. We got the text, and I texted.
An awesome feeling, though, huh? Like,
it is great.
And
I texted my partner. I was like, "Let's do it. Like, I need to get out of here." And I should have told him.
And what was the offer?
Asking the 170.
The 170.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I was like, let's take it. I don't really care. Like, I need to be done with this house already. Dude, I'm exhausted with this place. And he's like, well, let's see if we got anything the next day. The next day, nothing comes through. And the agent's like, hey, what are you guys going to do? I'm like, I say, let's do it. And then, he talked to his wife, my partner, and they're like, all right, let's just do it, So we did it, and and I was actually at the wedding reception in Mexico. Like, I was docu-signing paperwork at the reception, like, yes, take it, please, like, off my hands. And so this was Saturday, and they wanted to close the following Friday. Mind you, I didn't even get back till like Tuesday. And then my partner was leaving. And so I'm like, all right, well, we can try. I mean, I don't know. And I still had stuff in the garage, like scrap stuff and my tools. And I told them, I was like, well, if you give me through that weekend, I'll go ahead and get the stuff out. I was like, but I don't think I'll have it out before then. Because again, I have to go back to work. I had to do all sorts of stuff before then. And I didn't really hear much about that, but I knew they knew about it. And so we go to close. And another mistake I made is that, well, before I went to go close, my partner was in Mexico. And so he was like, hey, I won't be back till that following Tuesday. Let's just close Wednesday instead of Friday. And they're like, no, like the buyers just kicked our asses the whole way through, because I left myself in a vulnerable position where I didn't really have the luxury of waiting more or saying no.
Like, you were done.
So this is where I take ownership.
So was it a different agent that brought buyers, or
it was a different agent? Okay. It was a different agent.
And even in this market, they were very...
Dude, they were like pit bulls, man. Like, they were just predators. And like, honestly, I'm just saying, like, they were assholes like the whole way through. Like, I don't know. I knew for sure the way that they were negotiating things, but they were experiencing what they were doing, but they didn't really, like, literally, they'd never budge on anything. Like, we bent over backwards. In this market, we bent over backwards. But so my partner was in Mexico, and I thought you could DocuSign closing paperwork. Another thing I learned, but apparently you can't. So they were so adamant that we would close on that Friday that they had us do a digital notary while he was in Mexico on a laptop to do his closing.
Wow.
And then I had to go on that Friday. And that was $200 right there, which, like, he didn't want to pay for it. And at that point I was like, whatever, like, I'll just freaking pay for it. Then the agent was like, sorry, man, these guys are dicks. Like, they're not letting you guys get any sort of anything. Yeah. So he actually ended up paying for it, which is really cool.
Oh, wow. Nice.
Yeah. And so my partner did his thing on that, like, that Friday morning. And then, and this title company was a freaking joke, but they made an appointment for us to show up. And then the address on the Alta, that paperwork you get that shows all the breakdown of everything. It had one address, and we go there and it was like a house. So I call the agent, like, panicking, like, where the hell am I supposed to go? And so he gives me the right address. I show up. They don't even have me on the calendar. They don't know who the hell I am, why I'm there.
Wow. So you literally just struggled the whole way through.
Yeah, man. Like, the entire way was just a struggle, like, from beginning to the selling process. And these people. And so I show up to the closing on this Friday, right? And I'm like, okay, cool. I'm going to get my check. I'll be done with this house. Thank God I'm done. And I'm signing the paperwork. And I've never been to a closing where I don't either pay or get paid.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm doing this stuff and I'm like, where's my check? And the title agent's like, dude, like she was shady about it. She looks down her paper. She goes, I don't have it. Looks like we're just waiting on something. And then she just kind of moved on to the next thing. And I'm like, I had that look and I'm like, what the hell? And then she like left and I told my wife, because my wife had to be there too. And I was like, I've never been to a closing. And I'm like, mind you, I'm not the most experienced. I'm like, maybe this is kind of normal. But my gut was like, something's wrong here.
Jeez.
And anyway, so I signed and they're like, oh, well, when your funds are ready, do you want to check? Do you want to wire? Blah, blah. I'm like, I want to check and I'm going to come pick it up, And so anyway.
What was the reason?
So, okay, I didn't know. I thought it was something like getting tied up on the title company's end. So mind you, again, I didn't have the garage cleaned out because I told them like, look, I just got back into the country. I'm just, and I can only take so much in the truck back home. I live 45 minutes away. So I was doing one trip at a time. Yeah. And so, that Friday I had a load on that truck. And then that next Saturday I went and grabbed another. And I was like, okay, I probably bought one more on Sunday. So then Sunday comes around and my agent texts me, goes, hey, just so you know, like they're still waiting for you to get the stuff out. I was like, well, yeah, I told them that I wouldn't be able to. I've been taking stuff out. And I was like, I got one more today and then we should be good. He goes, oh, okay, because they're holding up payment. And I'm like, that's why I haven't been paid? So it turns out that the title company knew that the buyers, they were paying cash. And so they were holding up payment until they were happy with the final walkthrough. Wow. Which to them, that meant having this garage cleaned out that I told them wouldn't be cleaned out until the weekend. Yeah. And so they were holding up payment. So I was really, really pissed because had the title agent told me, hey, they're not happy with the final walkthrough yet. Yeah, exactly. You're not getting paid today. I would have been like, okay, that's fine. No, I would have been like, okay,
I'll go right now.
Not that I would go right now. I told them I wasn't going to change anything because I only have 24 hours in a day. I can only do so much. But had she told me, hey, the buyers aren't paying you because they're not happy that you haven't taken anything out, I'm like, okay, that's fine. I totally understand that. I was like, I'm going to walk away from the closing table now. I'll do what I got to do. And I will come back, finish the paperwork, and get my check. But they never said that. They were like really weird and shady about it. So, mind you, my partner at this time, he was still in Mexico doing it was like a graduation thing. Yeah. So he can't help me get anything out. So my agent actually showed up and like helped me get stuff out and load it into the truck. So, I mean, he did an awesome job. Danny, I don't know how to say your last name. I think it's Postig. I'm not really sure, but Danny, shout out to you. From one day to the other. Yeah, no, he did a great job, man. Like, I mean, he did everything he possibly could.
That's awesome. Yeah.
I mean, and obviously he's a professional guy, but I mean, there were so many points in this selling process. Like, God, you guys are fucking dicks. Like, I can't believe you're being such assholes.
Like you said, especially in this market, dude.
Not just that, but then also in with the title company, like that whole thing was just a mess. I'm like, are you guys like related? Because you both suck, And anyway, it is what it is. I got it cleaned out that Sunday. And so then Monday morning, when I'm texting my agent, I'm like, look, it's cleaned out. What's up? Where's my money at? And then he got it. They went through again and they were like, okay, it's clean enough or whatever they wanted. They were happy with it. And so we ended up, getting paid then. But again, yes, I can get mad at the title company. Yes, I can get mad at the buyers. I can get mad at everyone and their mom about this. But at the end of the day, we talked about extreme ownership last week. Yeah. I take responsibility for leaving myself vulnerable in this position where I didn't have the cushion to say, we'll wait on the, and honestly, at this point, like I had gotten so fed up with them that I probably would have just pulled out of the deal because I was like, man, you guys are just dicks. I just don't even want to sell to you, but I didn't have that luxury, and it was my own fault. So the biggest thing that I learned from this whole deal is like, make sure you leave yourself that room to actually be able to negotiate, because I had no negotiating room in this sense. And that's why I was able to just get pushed around so much. And you feel like, dude, like someone just took advantage of you, but like, hey, at the end of the day, it is what it is. And I made a little bit of money on it.
Yeah. And can you go over that real quick? So you bought it for 100?
100.
Okay.
Mind you, with 10,000 in for my part of the down payment. And with the interest payments, the mortgage, utilities, the rehab, contractors, whatever, everything else that I did, I was into it for an additional 41,500.
Okay, and that's with material included.
Everything, yeah. Okay. That's just like
everything.
So we're all in for 141.5 at this point. And then, hey, if we had sold it for sale by owner at 170, that's actually not a bad return.
Yeah.
And I have to split whatever the profit is with my partner.
Yeah.
But since we brought the agent in, that took a good chunk of that cash out too. So I actually ended up grossing like $8,600 on this deal.
Okay.
When that was my
When it's
portion of
all
the
said and
profits.
done.
Yeah.
So 86, and then your partner took 86.
Yes.
Okay.
So for him, it was a great deal because, honestly, in the beginning, and like he had mentioned in the beginning, like, I'm not a handy guy. I don't really do much. He and his wife did spend like a week cleaning or painting like all the walls and everything. But he had said from the beginning, like, I'm not really a handy guy. So I could have gotten pissed, like, dude, you could have helped me with this and that. But no, I was like, my word was you get half. So then you get half, and that's what it is. So for me, it wasn't as great of a deal because, if you break down my hours, I mean, I made nothing.
Yeah.
But regardless, the lessons.
Well, and even breaking down the hours too. Like, I mean, when you look it up, like, I'm sure with that money you did something, that's going to help your life.
Right.
As well. But obviously, you want a little more profit than that
and
way if you're going to deal with it.
If I flip a house, 20,000 is the minimum that you want.
So if you had to say top 3 lessons, like the 3 biggest things to do, what would they be?
For one, and I learned it earlier on with the contractor thing, like, trust your gut. My gut told me to let that guy go early.
So trust your gut.
And it ended up costing me money because I did have to, pay them for the materials. And I still, and we had the attorney write up that contract. Although I never signed it, I just wanted to be done with them. So I'm like, I'll pay the money for that attorney fee and all that. And I even paid them a little bit for their time. I mean, I didn't pay them for those ship levels. I'm like, I'll pay you for the materials, but I'm not paying you for the time because he did a shitty job. But so that's the one, like, definitely trust your gut. And I want to say plan better, but you get better at planning the more experienced you are.
Yeah.
So like I said, I got into I've never done a rehab this extensive myself ever. I won't ever do it again. But regardless, I now realize that, again, with my level of experience at this point in my life, if I think something's going to take X amount of hours, I'm just going to do, it's X times 4.
Yeah.
And then if I think a budget is going to cost me X amount of dollars, I'm just going to do X times 3 probably.
Yeah.
Because I know that I'm not experienced enough in this yet to where I can accurately describe that. So if I'm more conservative on my budgeting, then I probably, won't take such a hard hit on the back end of that deal. And then the third one would probably be, again, not so much with the budgeting, but be more conscious of my cushion for the funds. Because I think the biggest mistake I made here was leaving myself so vulnerable to these buyers. Because they were, like I said, they were able to just toss me around.
Yeah.
Because I left myself vulnerable like that. So
do you think there would have been, like, if you would have waited, there would have been more offers? Or is it just you? I think outside of your body, and if
right. I think honestly, I think there would have been offers, but
you were just ready to be like.
Well, not that. And not even so much that I was ready. I had to just pay this. I had to get this out of my life because I was just so tapped out for all my funds on this one. So that goes back to that third deal I'm talking about. Like, everything's just so full right now. And mind you, like, I think had this house had a backyard, I would have sold it the first day for sale by owner, and probably would have gotten that bidding more. But I mean, I really shot myself in the foot by working on a house with no backyard. So obviously it depends on your area. I mean, if in Brooklyn, like, it doesn't matter if you don't have a backyard. Like, there aren't really many backyards, but you can't do that in the Midwest. Like, you have to have a backyard. So I learned that, which probably should have been something I should have known. But I got cocky with the market and thinking that, I could sell anything right now.
Well, but at the end of the day, bro, what I like about it, I mean, there's, it's easy to look at all that negativity, right? But look at the positives. I mean, and I'll pick those out from a third person's here, like, point of view. Basically, you did it with, but you went in there with no money, in quotes.
None of my own money.
Yeah. Well, but I'm saying, even when you made the offer, you didn't have the money figured out, but you figured it out. Like, that's a big step right there. If you want to do something like this, you figured it out with what you had. You know what I mean? Like, your friend was able to co-sign, and now boom, the loan worked out. You also, and this is overall in this business, you never once threw the towel. You throw the towel, and I mean, you could. The thing with this business is that you throw the towel in, and that's potentially a 10-year mark in your life that you could. I mean, imagine losing all that money. You know what I mean? If you would have just been done.
And and I think I am kind of taking a more negative view on this.
Right.
But you're right. I think Doug said last week.
But you fought it, dude. You had your claws out. But
right. And when Doug Fitzgerald was on last week, he was talking about, it's okay to celebrate the little things, and I do celebrate that. I'm not at all an anxious person, but there was one night I was doing backsplash tile that I had been there like 12 hours doing tile. I was so exhausted just from everything about this project. I literally just wanted to break down and cry, man. Like, and it's just like, it's hard
happens.
to describe the
This
feeling.
business. Oh yeah,
Dude, it's hard to describe.
Yeah.
And then like, then you go from that type of crappy experience to like, now I got to sell this damn thing. And that's a whole freaking emotional roller coaster because you don't know what the hell's going to happen. If you're going to lose money. Like, I actually kept me up.
What you just said is a roller coaster. Like it really is. Like
this whole thing,
the whole process. Yeah. And that's where, anybody getting into it, like it's not glamorous. It's like not. the TV channels make it seem, or even YouTube, or it's like right now it's easy to listen to this story, but when you're in that story, it's a whole different thing. And
they always say like hindsight is 20/20, because now when I think back, I'm like, okay, like, you know what? Now saying that, now that I've been through the ringer on this one, I'm so much more confident. Exactly. And that's what, like, if I had the magical ability to like have foreseen what happened, but also to be able to be like, okay, this is what's going to happen to you, Dan, but this is what you're going to learn from it. I would do it again.
Exactly.
Only because the lessons that I've learned through
college.
It was I mean, and I'm not even going to say it was an expensive lesson because I still made money.
No. And to touch on that, I've read a lot of stories, and I'm sure you have or heard of investors left and right that lose out 15, 20 grand, 50 grand, 100 grand on a deal. And guess what? They took that lesson, but they still kept at it. Like, and imagine that. So at least I told you that like earlier on the week, I was like, hey man, you made money. Like,
and like
you got paid for the lessons.
Exactly. So I do think that the lessons learned from this project will make me money down the road. They'll save me money down the road. And again, it was just, I consider it a failure in the financial sense and logistical sense, but I really do think it's a win for me in the educational sense. And honestly, like that means more than anything at this point. I mean, I think at any point in my journey with entrepreneurship, I think it's gonna mean the most. But there was so much sacrifice. Like, not being home for days on end, essentially, it takes a toll on your marriage, and your kids want to see you. And so I made a lot of sacrifices for this one. But again, like, I'm never going to go into a project as ignorant again.
Exactly.
And so I'll be able to really just do better on the next. And I already know I got another one lined up already. So like, it's gonna be a completely different experience on this one. But hey, I'll probably make mistakes along the way.
Oh yeah, for sure.
It just matters. What matters is, are you learning from it? Are you doing better? Every single one, man. You got to
never quit, because you could. I can tell you right now that experience you went through, there's many that would never do it again.
I honestly, I wouldn't blame him, to be honest. Like,
right.
I mean, it's almost like, I don't know if it's the right word for it, but it's a little traumatic to kind of go through.
No, it is. And even, with the flip that I did last year, like I can relate to every piece that you talked about right now, because it's literally like you said, like the tears are like right there, like, but that's what it takes. And that's why anybody out there listening, if you want to get into this business, make sure you get your education right, and make sure that it is, even if you hire out most of everything, you still gotta deal with the stress, and it's good stress, right? Like we always talk about that. It is good stress, because you're gonna potentially make money at the end.
But you have to have the right mindset, man. Because you, like I said, you can be a victim, and I can sit there. I'm just being honest with everything that happened.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that, I'm a victim in any sense. I'm just saying, like, sure, anything that happened to me was because of my own mistakes and my own lack of knowledge or experience. But you gotta learn from this stuff. And I am proud of myself, man. Like I hung in there. I kept up with it. I finished it. And now
you got it figured out, bro. And that's what this business is all about, is figuring out, because there's gonna be a lot of a lot of bumps on the road for sure. So that's awesome, man. But yeah, so on to the next one. So for sure, I mean, you're not quitting, right?
No, man, no, dude. Like, I'm not quitting. Like, no, man. Honestly, if anything, like, man, it's kind of making me more hungry, and it, like I said, it gave me just such a level of confidence, and I'm actually restructuring how I think I'm gonna do my flips, because I do know I want to focus more on long-term stuff and just keeping them as rentals. Right now, flips work well based off of where I'm at in my life and the goals that I want to achieve within the next 2 to 3 years. But I do want to transition into keeping them more. So I'm going to partner up with this weird contractor. He's like a rapper from from Mexico or something.
From Mexico. Jesus.
But I think, like I said, like I've taken these lessons, and I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
it's not a way to scale if I do all the work myself.
Exactly.
I do think, anyone that's getting into it, I think it's important to do some of the stuff yourself at first.
Yeah,
if you're
yeah.
able to, YouTube is great for that kind of stuff. I think it gives you an appreciation of like what it takes to get
Yeah.
a house,
Yeah,
either
yeah.
flipped, remodeled, rented out, whatever the hell you want to do with
Yeah.
it. So but it's got its place. For me, I think, okay, learn my lesson. It was a hard one to learn, but now I'm ready to move to the next level because now I have a new understanding of things.
Exactly.
And I think I'm
came out stronger for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
And now, you're, like you said, you're going to be mindful of agent fees, for example,
Right.
and all that. So no, great stuff, man. So that check was definitely
it's hard earned, bro.
No, that's good, man. I'm glad you got that out. And I mean, if you really think about it, like the time of the house being in the market officially, like it wasn't really
It wasn't very
like,
long.
So it was still a great deal, like,
Yeah.
as far as everything, but you made it work, you stuck through it, and you made some money. Like, did you buy a boat or something, or a yacht or something?
I actually I paid off some bad debt, I should say, that is keeping me from doing this full time. So again,
a little closer.
I just chipped
so,
away.
Yeah. So that's
something.
That's a huge.
Yeah, and you're right. No, you're totally right. Like I said, it's not much money, but it helped me chip away at doing this, the way I want to.
And that's the thing. It's like the whole thing. This is not the only deal. Like there's going to be more deals with more cushion, and the whole thing is never quitting. Like I said, it could have been really easy for this to be your last flip and you're done. But so you got to have tough skin, man. Like with this business, it's definitely tough skin. And even if you are just the investor or whatever,
and just have the right mindset and realize that not everything's it's not glamorous. It's not always going to be easy. Man, like, when we talked to Jennifer a couple weeks ago, like she's putting in crazy amounts of hours by herself. Her husband's in the military. He's gone, she's got 3 kids or 2 or 3 kids. I'm like, it is a grind. I mean, but you put the work in on the front end so that you can enjoy that freedom on the back end. And you have to keep that in mind. And that honestly, like, that's what kept me going those nights when I literally just wanted to break down and cry doing tile. I was like, okay, I'm doing this for my family. I'm doing this for our future. I'm doing, it's like you have to have that big picture goal in mind.
And not just that, but and I want to say end goal, but the overall picture of your future. Because guess what? This flip, essentially, I mean, you just made a huge point with my point now is essentially put you closer to financial freedom to where you get to do what you want to do.
Yeah, sure did.
So, no, awesome story. Anybody out there listening to this, again, make sure you guys know it's tough skin. It's a lot of work. So take it from the mogul himself, Dan Delgado. But do you have anything to add? Anything else that you want to throw out there?
Man, I'm glad. I appreciate the opportunity to hopefully I can help someone out there.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
just like learn these lessons. I'm the type of guy that learns things the hard way, and I probably shouldn't be that way. But if you're not that type
it
of
makes
person,
you stronger though.
But if you're not the type of person, you can take what I'm saying and learn from it, then take it. And but again, like you said, it's just not. It's not always what it seems to be, and social media can be deceiving.
I know, for sure.
You put that kind of stuff
for
in there.
sure.
But you don't see all the heartache and all the sacrifice that goes in on the back end.
And like I said, I guarantee you, even people that are on billions of dollars in that level, right? I mean, they're still learning.
There's a lot of failures along the way.
So
you just gotta have the right attitude.
But you gotta. I always say in my music, you gotta lose to win. And that's definitely, but everybody out there listening, make sure you guys subscribe to our Instagram, the.minority report podcast. See, now it's natural,
it's
bro.
easy,
We're
man.
just,
You got it.
moguls out here. We're just public figures.
The word
doing
of the
it.
day is
public figures, he said. But yeah, subscribe, go to our YouTube and subscribe to all the other Spotify, Apple Podcasts and everything. So let's get it, baby. Vamonos.
Please don't segregate. Dressed in a suit, I can't relate. Minority report, can't ignore being rich from poor and your credit score. My hand to please don't segregate. Dressed in a suit, I can't relate. Minority report, can't ignore being rich from poor and your credit score.